Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, you guys, it is 4:40, so we would like to thank you for showing up and for being here tonight and to respect your time. And I know we have quite a few empty seats in the house, but people will trickle their way in. So if you have not already done so, whenever you get a chance, if you could sign in, we have the agenda here and refreshments over here to my left. I am Lakeisha Mitchell, a parent for a couple of students in the district, middle schooler and a high schooler, and I am our president for this, chairperson. Let me not give myself this made-up title. I'm the chairperson for SHAC. All right.
You are going with that, we're fine with president.
We'll take it. Okay, first we're going to have a review of our SHAC minutes from our January 27th meeting. And Mrs. Shields is on her way, so we are going to allow Nurse Grant to take it for us, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for coming to our SHAC meeting. I'm going to do a review of our minutes. So our previous meeting was called to order at 4:37 p.m. And then I reviewed the minutes last month because our secretary was not able to attend. We had the review of our wellness plan, which was conducted by myself and Ms. Tracy Markham. We discussed wanting to get more members on our SHAC subcommittee to help with nutrition updates and to help with athletics or sports updates in Duncanville. We also reviewed the suicide prevention and protocols. Ms. Pratt, she conducted that review and talked about what we do in the district when there's an outcry with a student for suicide and the protocol that we have in place. Then we talked about our safety and security updates. Ms. Zamora, she led that discussion where we talked about the Evolve system that is used at the high school and middle schools, and they really gave great feedback saying that system is working very well for the high school. And then restorative practice, they led a discussion in encouraging families in restorative practice where we discussed how to just restore or de-escalate behavior when students are misbehaving, how to de-escalate that in the classroom. Then our meeting was adjourned at 6:13 p.m. Any questions about our minutes from last month? All right, I will turn you back into the hands of our chair.
Thank you so much for your overview. Now we're going to have, and Ms. Hudson just sat down with her food, but we're going to have her come right on up to go over our bullying prevention efforts. So she's the director of restorative discipline and practices.
Hello, everyone. I am just here to give you a quick update on things that we're doing here in the district as it relates to bullying. I always start with giving you some data. This information that you see here on the screen comes from a survey that's done by the Boys and Girls Club each year. They survey between 120 and 150,000 students ages 9 through 18 every year for the survey, and they've just released their data from last school year. And so I will report that the 2024 data is at 40% as well. So although things have been rising, we kind of hit a plateau, which is it's good. And some of the things that I'm going to talk about may be some of the reason that we're hitting that plateau. My hope is that if I'm standing before you next school year, I can give you data that shows that we're trending lower in percentages. But these are the percentage of students who have reported that they were bullied on a school campus. And so I just wanted to share that information. I always want to give you some relevant data to help guide the conversation as to what we're doing for this data. So I want to start with just giving you the legal definition of bullying. A lot of words on the screen. I'm not going to read all of them, but I've highlighted some words that should stand out to you. So bullying is defined as a single significant act or a pattern of acts. So sometimes there's a misconception that if it hadn't been happening for a long time, it might not be considered bullying. If it's a single significant act that impacts the school's environment, it could be a potential bullying situation. Also, another key to bullying is if there's some type of imbalance of power, whether that be an older student to a younger student, whether that be a group of students against one, some type of imbalance of power. And then the effect of that has to be physically harming or damaging to their property, or even if that student is being placed in the fear of harm. Any of those things that are sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive enough, all of those things could constitute bullying. And of course, if it's affecting the school's educational process, and I'll talk about that a little bit when we go to cyberbullying, and of course, if it infringes on that person's rights at school. And I want to talk about David's Law, which says that we have to include cyberbullying within that definition, because even if something is happening on social media, on the weekend, at night, if those behaviors are providing the student with that imminent danger or perception of danger, or if it's substantially impacting them at school, that's something that still falls within our jurisdiction to do something about. So I wanted to share the legal definition. And then I want to also tell you what we do here in Duncanville to kind of help with that. These are questions that we train our administrators to ask when they are presented with a potential bullying case. I'm going to talk to you about how we do reporting in the district in just a few minutes, but these are some of the questions that they have to go through in determining whether or not there is a potential bullying case. And there's an entire bullying quick reference guide that every administrator in our district has that gives them the applicable laws, it gives them the correct forms. We script things for them so that there is a streamlined form of communication no matter what campus your student is on. If there's a report of bullying, every campus has the same processes and procedures that they go through to investigate, communicate with you, and then follow through with whatever the discipline might be after the investigation has been completed. So some of those things that I just shared with you are required by law, and then some of them are things that we've put in place here in Duncanville ISD. So what the law says is the school board has to adopt policies that prohibit bullying in our district and also prohibit retaliation against the bullying. And inside those policies, they have to include, like, what are our procedures for giving notice to the parents of the victim and for the person who has been identified as the potential bully. Also, we have to do whatever actions that we're going to be taking. We have to provide some counseling options, reporting procedures, and then whatever the discipline measures are. We have to have some of those in place in our district. And I have in parentheses self-defense and SPED, which stands for special education, because in our discipline procedures, we have things in place for whether or not a student is acting in self-defense. That discipline may look differently than it does if someone is maliciously harming someone, or if a student receives services through special education, and they may not have the mental faculties to know that what they are doing is something wrong. So we have those safeguards in place in our discipline practices. So our school board policy is FI local. And so that school board policy says that we have to provide a way for people to say that they have either been a victim of or they have witnessed some form of bullying. They have to be able to do that in a variety of ways, and one of them can be anonymously. So the form that you see here on the screen is one that you can get to from our school district's website. If you go to the Parent and Students tab on our district homepage, you will see a link that says Bullying and Harassment, and that goes directly to this reporting form. And when that form is submitted, it goes to several people. If you say that my child is at Hastings Elementary, the administration at Hastings Elementary, if it's midnight and you push that button, at midnight that email is going to go to a person at Hastings Elementary. I also am copied on all of those so that we know, and we've got some checks and balances as far as bullying reports are concerned. And so there are corrective actions that come with bullying cases. It could be some education that we're providing. It could be certain follow-up that we do. Sometimes when we get to digging and doing the investigation, sometimes there's some things that are going on with the bully that need some support, just like the victim of the bullying may need some support. We try to involve parents as much as possible so that we can identify problems that are going on and provide support for them. And of course, we increase our monitoring of those students so that we can continue to prohibit bullying in the district. So one of the parts of my duties is to ensure that all administrators are trained on our processes for bullying and what the protocols are. And then in turn, once they receive that training, they are responsible for making sure that the people on their staff are trained and the families are trained on how to report. Like I told you before, we have an anonymous reporting system that we have in the district, and we know that that is something that can be done online, or if a parent comes to a school building and they say, I believe that my child has been bullied, then we also have trained the front office staff to say, even if they come and tell you by word of mouth, you go and you put the form in for that family who came and gave that information to you by word of mouth. So we try to ensure that everyone on the campus is aware of those policies and how to report if they suspect bullying. So I told you this part already. All staff have received the training. The tool is used frequently. Even if there's a suspected bullying case, we are obligated to do our investigation. If the case comes out to be that it was not a case of bullying, we don't just stamp it and say, well, that's not bullying, go on back to class. There's still some follow-up that we do. There's still communication that happens between the student's family that is the perceived victim and the person that is the perceived bully. And campus administrators are, like I said, quickly investigate. As a matter of fact, they have 3 days from receipt of a report. They have 3 days to notify the parent that, yes, we have received this report and we are starting that investigation process. And this last slide that I have here is just to give you some assurances. The one at the top left corner talks about safe and supportive schools programs. I will let you know that every campus has a safe and supportive schools team on their campus, and that team, their job is to do things like this. You know, when we get a threat, or reported threat on a campus, or if we get a report of bullying, there's a team to sit down and really assess the issue to see what protocols do we need to put in place, what supports do these students need, what communication needs to go out to families. And oftentimes that may include a phone call to Ms. Hudson to say, hey, this is what's going on, you know, give us a little bit of guidance on what we need to do next. The bottom right corner is what you may have seen if you visited a campus before. These are posters that are on all of our campuses. It's just so that students, families, staff, anybody knows. If you see something that's going on, whether you know it's real or it looks suspect, click the QR code and just report it. It doesn't hurt to report it so that we can check it out and make sure that we keep everybody in the district safe. And that's all I have for you. I don't know who's next. Yes, you have a question?
I'm wondering if the percentages are going up because we're doing a better job at making kids and families comfortable to report.
I do think that that has a lot to do with it. Because David's Law has come out and there are some standard things that school districts must supply, like an anonymous way to report, I think that people are more prone to do the reporting now. And I think that that is some of why the numbers have gone up.
That's kind of like that. I haven't been in school for a while, but when I was, there was nothing for bullying.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even talked about, and now it's a constant.
Yes, and I will let you know, like I said, that the report from last year did just come out from the Boys and Girls Club, and it asked more than just, have you been bullied on campus? It asked if you were bullied on campus. They asked the percentage of people who told somebody on the campus. So it's a very detailed report, and it does not just address bullying. So if you're interested, they do it every year. You can look it up. Yes, ma'am.
So as parents, how can we assure that something is being done? Because my son was bullied last year, all year, by all the kids in school. Because he was homeschooled before, and that was his first year going back to school. And he was bullied every day, and we reported it.
Through this reporting system?
We walked into
Walk to the campus.
Because
Walk
we
into the
talked to
campus.
teacher. We walked into the campus, we talked to the principal. Once after like calling, trying to be consistent, said we're gonna look into it, but we never got a report back explaining exactly what happened. So I wonder, how can we make sure that something is truly being done?
I'm so glad that you brought it up.
And this year as well, in the beginning, he's in a better school, I feel like now. And I spoke to his teacher even before school started. I'm sure I called and said, hey, my son went through this last year, I'm making sure you guys know. This school, they let the counselor let the teacher know. And I noticed a difference in this new school.
Good, I'm glad to hear that.
So how can, certain schools are not following the procedures that we have in place, and that's sad, because, my son, he didn't know it, he's like, Mom, I don't know, these kids just don't like me.
Yeah.
And very timid, because he has ADHD, two, he's first year in school, back in school, so he was, social skills, he was awkward, obviously, for him, it's after COVID and everything.
Yeah.
So, just, how can we help make sure that it's actually implemented?
Well, thank you for asking that question. One of the reasons why I asked if it was reported through that reporting system is because that's the checks and balances. Because it comes to me, and then I follow up with the campus to say, hey, it's been 3 days. Has this parent been contacted? Those are those checks and balances that form does. And I will be honest with you, as far as the staff, the front office staff, the clerks being trained, that if a parent comes into the front office and says my child's been bullying, you scan the QR code. You submit the form. That training happened this school year, so that parents didn't come and speak to the first person that they saw, and maybe they wrote a note and passed it on to the principal, and then time goes on and there's no follow-up. And so they've been trained. If you hear that word of mouth, then you can tell the parent to do the QR code, or you do the QR code and get that report in.
Because a lot of times I know the teacher knew about it, but they never got back to me. I had to find out by either my son or one of the kids that saw it. So, I just hope that the teachers actually take it serious.
And they should. And I'm glad that you're providing that feedback, because as I stated before, part of my job is to train the administrators on all those protocols, and then part of the administrator's job is to turn that training around to the teachers on their campus so that they recognize it as well.
No.
Thank you for asking that question. Thank you for being vulnerable in the room.
Can I ask, Ms. Broughton, what grade is your son in?
He's in 5th grade.
5th grade? So last year he was in the 4th grade? At the other
He
school?
was at Alexandra Elementary, yes.
I went west to school.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you. And that is a very sensitive topic, but as we see, 2 out of 5 kids is really important for us to establish those protocols. And I'll say, I was subbing a couple weeks ago at Daniel, and a group of students was ridiculing another boy who was sitting by himself. And he put his head down and he just started crying, shedding tears, and I had to walk up to him. So to your point, and I know kids are kids, but it seems like kids are being mean because they click up and they group up. And I know, going back to the cyberbullying, a lot of it has to do with social media. So I think I love your thoroughness there with the protocols for the administrators, because the biggest part of it, I think, is involving parents, because if we had more parental support, then some of those things could be taken care of. So thank you for all of your work with that, Ms. Hudson. All right, next up, we have Director of Child Nutrition giving us updates, Ms. Tracy Markham.
No, that's okay. Let's get my clicker out. Hello, everybody. Let's see if I go the right direction here. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is just a little update. I do this every year at SHAC and let you know what's going on in the world of child nutrition. So these numbers as last week when I turned this in. So this year we've served 252,535 breakfasts, 799,578 lunches, 1,781 after-school snacks. So after-school snacks are initiated whenever a campus principal or secretary calls us, hey, we're going to have tutoring. Right now, that's all we're doing the snacks for is tutoring programs. And whenever they have a program going on for tutoring, they can get free after-school snacks through the after-school care program. And Alexander, Central, Fairmeadows, Smith, Brandenburg, Daniel, and Kennemer are currently offering after-school snacks with their tutoring program. A percentage of free and reduced students right now are 78%, which is actually down from this time last year. It was at 82%. Yeah, down isn't good, and we can go into why that is, but a lot of it has to do with post-COVID, and more programs have been dropped and more people aren't as eligible. They've either had to go back to work or the programs have tightened up their budgets, and so there's less people receiving SNAP and TANF and other things that automatically qualify them. So unfortunately, I'm looking for that to go down next year, and that's not necessary. It's great if people don't need it. So don't get me wrong, I don't want people to be in poverty. So when I talk about that, but I don't want students or families that are in poverty to not be getting the meals that they need. Sometimes people understand what we do and why we do it, and sometimes not. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we have to do to our menus. We do have a registered dietitian here at Duncanville ISD, and the weekly or daily requirements are measured in every menu that we put out for minimum and maximum calories, maximum saturated fat, the required amount of whole grains, fruits, vegetables by subgroup, required milk choices including the fat contents they contain, and a maximum amount of sodium. For next school year, things get more difficult when we analyze our menu, and some better for the kids, but harder to feed them, if that makes sense to anybody sitting here. Also harder for my budget. So reduction in the amount of added sugars we can serve in breakfast cereal, yogurt, and flavored milk. And then in 27-28, there's a lot of things going on. Added sugars will be limited to less than 10% of calories over the course of a week for breakfast and lunch. And they will reduce the sodium targets again by 15% for lunch and 10% for breakfast. So I am a champion for good nutrition. It's also really hard when I'm competing with McDonald's and Chick-fil-A. So kids will say, this food doesn't taste like anything. Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. I do tend to talk fast, especially when I get in front of people. No, don't be sorry. I'm glad someone's interested. I'm telling you what. And I'm happy to send you this presentation. If you want to give me your email address, I can always email it to you.
You're good.
Yes, of course.
Especially for where we're going. I recently had a doctor's appointment. My doctor said, if you're eating something and it tastes good, it probably has too much sodium in it. So,
Unfortunately, he's probably correct.
what have you noticed? Like, are they eating?
Okay, so I've been doing this, well, not as a director, but I've been doing this at some point for 22 years. And we all know the Healthy Hungry Free Kids Act with Michelle Obama. This was her passion project. We saw a huge drop in kids eating when the original took effect. Has it come back some since then? Yes. However, one of the things that I wish I could give you a measurement right now, we've gone out and looked, but I haven't put it into data and measured it. A lot of food goes in the trash, and there's several reasons for that. One reason is they have to take a certain amount of food on their tray before we can call it a lunch and get our reimbursement for it. If a student comes through and they get, a fruit and a milk, and that's all they want, I could say, I have to charge you a la carte prices, or you got to get one more thing on your tray. Or I can't turn it in for reimbursement from the government. So there's a lot of regulations about what has to be on their tray, and they must take a fruit or vegetable whether they want it or not, or it's not a meal. So is it a good thing for kids to eat it? It's fantastic, but if they don't eat it, we pay to feed the trash cans, all right? When the sodium goes down again, and at breakfast when the sugar and all that goes down, honestly, we're meeting with vendors to say, what do you have? I would like to tell every one of you, we scratch cook everything here, that's what we do, and it is not what we do. It is what I would love to do. I am completely honest about what we can and can't do with the budget, the personnel, and the equipment that we have. So we are looking to do more scratch cooking as we go along, and that will help so we can add flavors into the food that's not sodium and it's not fat. We can use spices all that we want. But right now I'm at the mercy of the manufacturers that give us a lot of the food, right? And I don't want to say that, we don't cook anything, but it's really, really hard. I've got $1.40 max to feed a lunch. So, yes.
When did we stop cooking? I know, I'm about to date myself. I'm from Louisiana, so we used to eat good.
Yep.
I mean,
Same, when I was growing up, it was great. And actually, when I started as a substitute lunch lady, and I'm gonna date myself, give me just a minute, 2002. All right, and then I became an actual lunch lady, and then I moved up the lunch lady ladder, and I went back to school and did a bunch of things. So the little Debbie truck pulled up outside the back door, and we unloaded it. I worked the fryer. We fried foods, and I was the baker. So I made homemade rolls about the size of your head, and the football players would get one with their lunch and 6 more on the side, right? It was fantastic. There's several things. First of all, those rolls were regular homemade white flour yeast rolls, right? They were great.
yes, I still have dreams.
Yep, well, I still have the recipe at my house, so I'm still going with that. But it went to whole grain. And then it got harder to make. They can't, it's harder to make those from scratch. They don't get fluffy, and then the kids don't want to eat them. And then it got to where we didn't have anybody to work. And when you don't have people to work, we went through a huge time, even since I've been here, before they gave raises. And after COVID, I couldn't get anybody to come to work. How am I going to make rolls from scratch that take 5 hours of the day, when I'm lucky if I get somebody there that can get one out of a package? And like I said, I'll be blatantly honest with everybody. We're doing everything that we can. The ladies and gentlemen work really hard in my department, but between the regulations and the equipment, there are some kitchens here at Duncanville that are not the size of a closet, right? So I don't have a mixer. I don't have room for a mixer. I have a 2-door freezer that you open 2 doors, and that's all. We deliver food every single day to every campus because there's not enough storage but for 1 day of food. So am I going to make homemade rolls with 50-pound bags of flour? I'm not. And that's just the reality we're living in right now. But we're working on some things. Yes, ma'am.
So let me say this, I'm very active in the district.
Good.
And I'm a person that, it's hard for me to tell my son to eat something that I won't even eat, because I am at the schools a lot. I try to be the model, right? How can we encourage our students to eat if I'm not getting mine to eat too?
It's okay, go ahead.
What can we do? Because I'm not a staff member. So what can we do to raise voice to give you a bigger budget so that our kids have quality food? Because I'm not even a proponent of serving our kids breakfast for lunch, which I see done very well.
But it's one of our most popular things that they will eat. Chicken and waffles is one of our most popular menu
And I'm
items.
not talking about chicken and
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about the egg surprises that come up on the
Okay,
menu that
we don't serve that
when
here.
I look at the cafe menu online.
We don't have that here for lunch since I've been here, but
I will start taking pictures and documenting
Sure.
my specific examples. I don't want to turn from my core. What can we do outside of Duncanville staff to help you get a better budget? Because let's talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. A lot of them are not eating, they resort to junk food, which we all know creates that off-the-wall experience we're seeing in the classroom. So what can we do as
Okay.
parents to help you get a better?
there's several things. So, well, I'm not saying that you can do. There's several things that I believe will help. Okay, first of all, no one's increasing my budget because I get no money from the school district. Nutrition makes their own money, and we're self-sufficient. We don't take any money away from education and don't want to, right? You want education to have to start paying. Right now I have a $7 million budget, and if you're wanting to double that, there is no way. So, however, I'm not saying nothing can be done. I'm just saying nutrition programs are supposed to be self-sufficient, okay? We have a central kitchen where scratch cooking can happen. However, Things have to go out to bid because the equipment is old and broken down. And so I am getting ready to put a proposal together to get that equipment up and running, and that's when some scratch cooking can really happen. And that way we have a centralized location. It went down right before COVID and hasn't come back up. So we do have potential, but it's just a lot of money, and then we do have some money put aside for it, and we're waiting to see how much that's gonna cost.
Yeah.
Okay?
Parents helping is not us taking away from education, it's us understanding a holistic approach to our children.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm not saying take from education.
Right. Well, when you talked about the budget, I just think that's important for people to know. A lot of times they don't realize that because the school district just talks about a budget, but we're always separate. We're federally funded, and that makes not only the budget different. I mean, how I can procure things is different. So I have stricter regulations in the school district to procure food. I can't go anywhere and buy anything. I have to bid everything, or I have to go on a regional bid. Okay, so I can't say, you know what? I'm gonna go out here and this place has some really great stuff. Well, then I'm going out to bid and doing those things, which can be done, but it's it's kind of a red tape kind of process, right? There is a student and parent survey going out in April. I tried to get that out a little bit earlier and it didn't get out, but it is going out. So your feedback is taken and listened to. Last year we did some at elementary and intermediate level, middle school and high school. We had what we called the parent-student taste testing day, opened that up, advertised it, and we got nobody to show up. So what you can do, the only people that showed up other than students that were at the school participating in things, people that work for my department showed up as parents and brought their kids. And we had a taste testing, we had information on the department, we had all the rules and regulations plus a suggestion box. If you can tell me how to get people there, I will do anything. I will put everything out there. I will take this is great and I don't like this food. I will take all the feedback, y'all. Like, I am not scared of that. I'm appreciative of it. So what parents, I think, can do is get together and say, we want to have this here and we're going to show up. We're going to voice our opinion. That's what I need. Yes, ma'am.
So to answer one of the questions, I know that a couple of nurses called me last week and they were talking about how the students come in after lunch and some of them say their stomach is hurting or some of them say that they're still hungry because, and it can be breakfast and lunch, because of what they was served. So the nurses, a lot of times give the students crackers. That kind of helps, but then it also hurts because when they know that Nurse Jackie is going to give them crackers, then that's a resource for them to go and get them some crackers. And with the limits that are being set, and I'm all for healthy eating, but you want to taste the food. So however we can help to get.
I take all the help and feedback I can get. Like I said, I'm not looking for y'all just to tell me if I want to hear we're doing a great job. I want to say what's not working so we can fix it.
Yeah, and then some of the students, they'll say, as we've talked about before, the time constraint, they'll get in line and they may sit down because they're at the end of the line. They only have 2 or 3 minutes to eat. So when they inhale that food, then they come in again, their stomach is hurting.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with, we really try to get it through that line. Again, I'm not saying we could always do that perfect, but we have 30 minutes regardless of how many kids are sent down right there to us, right? And that's something where there's sometimes conversations I have with principals, but I also understand they're on a time crunch too. So I'm not making excuses. I'm saying there's a lot of moving parts. And a lot of times I get parents that aren't very happy. And they'll say, hey, this food is awful and this is this and this and this and this and that. And some of it is like, I'm with you. Now, I personally eat in the cafeterias at least 3 times a week. So I don't say I eat there every single day because sometimes I don't make it out to the campuses, but I do eat the food. I also understand that I have lunch lady taste buds because I'm used to not eating the sodium, right? I'm used to not comparing it to McDonald's because if the kids are going to do that, we can never win that. Can we do better? Yes. Are we ever going to taste like what you make at home? Never. We can't use fat. We can't use salt. There's no salt.
I really don't think this collective thinks like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
No.
I'm saying it's not gonna taste like our home.
Yeah, right.
But do you have the date for for the taste testing, I'm over BTA and I'm getting well connected with the.
Well, right now, there's a survey going out. I don't have a taste testing scheduled right now, but if you want to get with me, we will absolutely get one together. I'm happy to do that anytime.
Yeah, because the principals are upset about all the Uber Eats things that come in, the parents are delivering. So I think we all want a solution to it. Yeah, I mean, the amount of stuff that is delivered to the school is, I don't even know how to afford to do it.
Well,
I can't afford to eat out.
78% of our families can qualify for free and reduced meals, so I don't know either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's crazy.
No, like I said, I love all of this conversation. I'm happy to, yep, if you just get with me, we can pick a date that works and find a campus that works, but us sending things out, or the principals have even said, hey, there's a taste testing tonight, it's here. I mean, it's getting me nowhere, so I need to know how to get those people to show up.
The taste testings are occurring at the school?
They did last year. Now, this year I've sent an online survey out, but we haven't currently scheduled. What I would need to do, and I talked to the principals meeting, is when they're having an event, that's the time to do it. However, that can be difficult and complicated too, because I know if they're having an event, if it's, and not a sports event, I don't think that'll work very well, but if they're having a play, or this or that, are the parents gonna go in there and sit for an hour and a half and then come out in the cafeteria and taste food? Like, that's a long night. They gotta get back home. But when I already have a captive audience, I think is when I need to do it. But I don't know exactly. If you wanna help me, I'm happy to help you.
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. Yep. I'm all for it. We already went through that. Okay. I think it's important to know too that there is professional development required for all staff that's in nutrition. That's not just something that is for professionals or teachers. This is just a little excerpt that shows directors have to have at least 12 hours of continuing education, and they have to have specific courses. Cafeteria managers at least 10 hours. All other staff at least 6 unless they're part-time, and then 4 hours. And on the next slide, I think I have, we always exceed that minimum. We go far above that. There's really important things for us to teach that go above and beyond even the sodium and all of that, because we develop those menus and all those recipes in our office. So obviously when we send those out, the staff are gonna follow them. Food safety is so important. So we have all staff professional development 3 days per year, where every single one of our, well, fully staffed, we have 130 people in the nutrition department. We're not fully staffed right now. Then we have managers have an additional 3 professional development days. We have manager meetings every month. Monthly staff for all training on the hazard analysis of critical control points, which means food safety. We have civil rights training, which we must have every year. And then, of course, our district online trainings that are required for everyone. Some exciting things that we did this year is the Farm Fresh Challenge. Texas has this Farm Fresh Challenge to increase local foods and fresh foods in our school campuses. And this year they bumped up the criteria. They usually would have they call it best of bunch. If you made the top tier, and this year they moved it to cream of crop, which we did get. We had to offer 6 different local foods representing 3 different meal components, and a meal component meaning meat, grains, vegetables, fruit, or milk. 2 or more local products served each week of the challenge. 1 educational opportunity each week, and at least 2 social media posts during the challenge. What we served from local people, I won't read the whole thing and where it came from, but you can see here, rainbow carrots, fresh cantaloupe, multicolored tomatoes, roasted purple potatoes, whole grain bread and hamburger buns, that's local, milk, and then we did a microgreens testing at the high school. So we had Did You Know flyers. As you can see in the corner of each one of these slides, it's a different fruit or vegetable that we served, and it talked about the health benefits of what we were serving that was locally sourced. JR Farms made a presentation to the DHS Culinary Arts class on microgreens grown in their farm in Mansfield, Texas. Talked about the health benefits of microgreens, let them taste them in a nice little juice. and plain. Some of them thought it was cool and some of them not so much. It was very healthy tasting, I can promise you that. We also did a taste testing of wraps using microgreens from their farm and got a real positive response from that. And then we had the Texas Farm Bureau Mobile Learning Barn visited Merrifield Elementary, and they gave lessons on dairy, beef, and swine from the state of Texas. Here are some pictures there of the wraps that we presented, of some of our rainbow carrots, and then the mobile learning barn that went to Merrifield. So I already had some questions, but do I have any more? I love questions. All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was tricky. That was a lot, because I think you said you have the cafeteria lady taste, and it made me reflect. I served 20 years as an educator, 5 years as a teacher, then, 10 to administrator, and then central office. I not one single day ate cafeteria food, ever. So when you said you lead by example and you'll try to eat the food, now it made me think, I'm like, that's why my son didn't eat cafeteria food. I mean, and he's a picky eater. He's in the 6th grade. So I think a lot of that too is that kids aren't eating home cooked meals and some of that stuff that we ate, and we sure can't compete with Louisiana. They're not eating that at home. So when you come to school, then it's not that the school isn't providing something that's even presentable or decent. It's just the kids' taste buds haven't graduated to accepting that kind of food if they're not used to it. So.
And I know I have my time, but when you said that, the difference it makes when parents and staff say anything or eat the food. I had a principal one time, not in this district. We had strawberry chocolate and white milk every day. And he decided one morning to say, ooh, he was reading the menu, strawberry milk, that tastes like Pepto-Bismol. That's so gross.
Yeah.
I had to run over chocolate and white milk because nobody would drink the strawberry, and then we were gonna run out of milk, because normally all the kids took strawberry milk, and I had to call the principal and say, hey, I know that was a joke.
Right.
And you're just trying to, he was a super interactive fun guy, said, could you please tell them that strawberry milk is good? Like, all he had to do was say it on the announcement, the kids wouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
So that's what.
That leading by example. Yeah, absolutely.
I told them we used to mix the sauces too. We had to get creative with the school cafeteria, but we made it work. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it tasted a whole lot better too, though.
Ketchup and mayonnaise together, sauces.
Yeah.
It taught you how to survive in college, though.
Yeah. And even too, when I think about it, poor now is a different kind of poor. When I was poor growing up and with no lights, no water, no food stamps, we were happy for whatever the food gave us. But nowadays, poor is wearing Jordans and the new iPhone 16s and everything else. So our taste buds for poor is still getting Uber Eats. So just trying to, how do we keep up with changing time within our constraints? So thank you for all of your heart. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All righty. Next up, we will have Mr. Ryan Flint, the Director of Teaching, Learning, and Assessment, to give us an overview of these new health teaks.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Absolutely. I appreciate that. Good evening. We're going to look at the health teaks and what we use for our health program here in Duncanville. So with our health teaks, we really are 100% aligned to the state standards, and we wanted to make sure that we had materials that would align to the state standards. One of the big things was promoting just healthy living throughout throughout not just their childhood, but when they get into adulthood. We want to make sure that we're producing individuals that have healthy lifestyles. Here are the major topics. I won't go through I won't read all of these, but you can take a look. Look at these major topics. These are the major topics that we cover inside of our grade 8 and our high school health courses. So this isn't where I'm not talking about K-12. I'm just going to be talking specifically about 8th grade on up, and the health courses that are required that our students make sure that they're a part of and that they take. So one of the non-negotiables when we were looking at instructional materials, we went through an adoption process back in 2022. We wanted to make sure that we were 100% aligned to the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, that they covered those TEKS. We had to be in compliance with House Bill 1525 and Senate Bill 9, that they reflect the diversity. We wanted to make sure the instructional materials reflect the diversity of Duncanville ISD too. So those were like our big tasks when we were adopting them. So there really was only one option for us to really look at, and that was the Goodhart Wilcox Health Skills textbook. And it's the only one that was approved by the State Board of Education. So this is what we have with our health courses. This is the textbook that we use. It also has assessment tools inside of it, so it has like quizzes and tests built into it. And we use a parent opt-in feature, and what that is send home a form for parents to sign to opt into the health curriculum, and that is in alignment with Senate Bill 9 and House Bill 1525. And then we have course overviews for both the middle school and the high school. So we have all of this paced out over the course of 18 weeks. For both middle school and high school, and these are hyperlinks there on here. And let me see if I can show you one of those, just so you can see how we pace things out. Okay. So you can see it's just a semester-long course. That's why you're only going to see like the first 9 weeks and the second 9 weeks, and we take all of those major topics and we pace them out over the course of the 9 weeks. So it ensures that nothing is skipped as we're going through the course with students, and we put approximately how long it will take. Sometimes we have to do some compacting because something will happen, like a bad weather day, and so we'll have to take something that's 5 days and compress it down into 4. So that does happen every now and then, and we can help and support with that. And so that's what those major overviews look like. And I just wanted to kind of give you guys some updates on those and what that looks like. And here's my contact information. And of course, I can answer questions now too if you have any questions about our health courses. All right, well. Yes.
When would it be time to review or update? So you said 2022, there was a change that just based on TEA legislation.
Yeah, it's based on, TEA goes through a cycle of when we are updating all of our instructional materials. It used to be that it was done through proclamation, so that there would be a proclamation that TA would release, and we'd revise all the standards. The state has redone how we do that. Back in November of 2023, they passed House Bill 1605, which revised how we do it. So we don't have proclamations anymore. We have an instructional materials review process that we go through now, and that the state I say we, not Duncanville, the state of Texas goes through now. So I have to be careful when I say we. And so then it's my job to be a part of that we and look for and review materials for our students and for our district.
I do have one.
Yeah.
Can you just go back to the slide with the non-negotiable? I'm the secretary, y'all. They talking.
Was it major topics or back?
No, the non-negotiable.
I think I skipped it. There we go. Yeah. So when we were selecting it, these were the things that we wanted to make sure that we included here. And it was these big three. These are our big tasks. And the compliance with HB 1525 and Senate Bill 9 was making sure we had an opt-in model for our parents. And we had forms that will make sure that our parents are informed of what's being taught.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking.
I was fingers just
I was like, yay, I got a question. I got 2 questions. I'm not left out. Okay. Ms. Grant, who's next? Oh, you've got it. I'm sorry, Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell, you're there you go.
She's the president, yes.
The president. I love that title, the president. No, I don't know now. This new president. All right, so here we go. We have our last presenter. Ms. Bradley is going to come talk to us about our second semester attendance updates.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Since I am the last one, I'm going to try to make sure I can see there. I need glasses, but we'll make this work. Okay, so I talked with you all the first semester about attendance, right, and how important attendance is, not only just this school year, but of course in years previous. However, with Dr. Goree being our new superintendent, one of his main goals is to ensure that we are recouping some of the funds because of our ADA. So as you know, we're in the state of Texas, and so our funding, some of our funding is tied to ADA. So this is a major push for us this school year, okay? So I'm gonna give you some information. And so as of, that should have been today. Oh, we didn't do a refresh, but that's okay. As of February 24th of 2025, our ADA was at 91.65%, okay? And as we look at that, that is compared to last year at that particular time. So we're hovering around the same ADA percentage as last year, but look at the missed revenue. That's very important to see because we need to increase our ADA, and as you see, our attendance goal is going to be this year 93%. Then we want to make sure that we are not losing funds, free funds at that, just because our students are not attending school on a regular basis. And then if you'll see the notice there, it says historically our ADA percentages will drop in March, April, and May. So if we're trying to hit that goal of 93% and we're already at 91%, then we're trending in the wrong direction this school year, okay? So that's where we're gonna ask for everyone's assistance. So let me show you what we're looking like as of, again, the end of February. So the elementary schools, they're looking pretty decent for us, but typically elementary schools, their ADA is a little bit higher than that. So we've asked for their ADA to be somewhere close to 96%. Okay, and that's the goal for the elementary schools. The intermediate schools, we've asked for their goal to be 94%. Middle schools, 93%, and look at the middle schools, they're showing out this year. And they have been doing that all school year. The middle schools have, those principals have been so competitive because of the incentives that we've been providing, but not even that because I haven't provided incentives since January, but because we send that attendance data out once a week to the principals, everybody gets to see everyone else's data. So they want to be on top, right? So as parents, I'm sure you all have received all of the information, parent letters, they're talking about attendance, and that's what's going on now. That's a heavy push because we know as we're in a deficit, as we know how the state is treating public schooling now and not giving us funds. These are easy funds that we can receive if our students are attending school. Okay, the high school is where we need to target our support, and we know that, and we're sitting at 89%. And what's crucial is that right now we're sitting at 92.37% for the total district. But again, like I stated, we start trending and dipping. The trend is for us to dip March, April, and May. Towards the end of the school year, testing, you would think that it would increase, but at the same time, the temperature rises and so does everything else, right? So we want to make sure that our students are attending school on a regular basis. So we know that we have to provide, interventions and support. So these are some things that we've noticed. So we use RawWe. It's a platform that we look at for our data, and it tracks the data that is inputted in the system by our administrators, our attendance clerks, our counselors, okay? So right now, when we look at our chronically absent students, and chronically absent means that these kids are absent for unexcused or excused, okay? We have roughly about 14% in our school district, which is 1,736 students, okay? We have a little over 11,000, close to 12,000 students, so that's quite a few students, and our goal is to be less than 10%. So when we started traveling to different schools, January and February, we started having the conversations with our principals and our administrators stating we tier our students for everything else for behavior, for academics, testing, etc. But now it's time to tier our students for attendance. And so now they are looking at the chronically absent list as their tier 3 students to ensure they are targeting the support. As we start targeting the support, we start looking at our barriers. These are the top barriers that have been identified by the administrators as of today. So you have physical and health conditions. You also have transportation challenges, homelessness, as well as short-term illnesses, okay? Again, this is just a data that's being inputted into the system, and so I'm not sure because we had quite a few that were not reported at all. So that is going to be a next step for us to ensure administrators, once they have the conversations and they're identifying the barriers of the students, put that information in the system so that we'll know how to provide wraparound services or services and support to target the reason why the kids are not wanting to come to school. Okay. So these are some of the things that we are doing, and this is where my eyesight goes a little blurry. So I'm going to try to make sure that I'm looking at this information. So these are initiatives and collaborative efforts that we're doing now. So our parent engagement piece, right now, if you have not, hopefully some of you all have seen, if you're at a Title I campus or if your child is at a Title I campus, you should have seen the parent liaisons are going out to Title I campuses and doing a parent workshop for attendance. They are doing it in collaboration with other things that are going on at the campus. Hyman, I think they did it with a coffee with the principal. Maryfield the other day had it when they had their Black History Month program. So that goes back to the principals are actually making a decision as to when they want those attendance meetings to occur through the parent liaisons. And like Maryfield, Dr. Jones knew that all the parents were coming to the Black History Month program, so she wanted to ensure that that attendance conversation was held at that particular time. Also, at those meetings, they're distributing a one-page attendance document to help families understand. We also have district actions where we've actually formed an attendance committee, which includes not only the Student Services Department, but includes people from CNI, a couple of administrators, and other departments in the district, so that we're not the only ones that understand that we do have an issue, because we're the lowest district in the best Southwest as far as attendance. So we're working with DeSoto, Duncanville, Lancaster, and we're going into these meetings, and we are the lowest in the area. So what is it that we need to do to not only compete with the other districts, but we know that Duncanville is the city of champions and the district of champions. What do we need to do to ensure that our attendance looks like championship attendance, right? And so we're working with the other, not only working with a committee, a district-wide committee, but we're also working with other school districts in the best Southwest. Also, we made sure that we revised the website, the attendance website, so that's new and updated this year so that parents can have a better understanding of what it is that they need to know about attendance. For example, pre-K parents, they were like, oh, I'm eligible to enroll my child because I have, X, Y, and Z, I'm getting this, so I'm eligible. What they did not know is just because it's free doesn't mean that you can just drop your kid off at school whenever you get ready to, right? So when they were getting the truancy letters after 5, 6 different truancy prevention measures, as you all know, you get the phone calls, the letters, all of the things that we do to say, hey, we're getting ready to file truancy. They did not realize that we could file truancy on a pre-K student. And we can, because you opted to enroll your child. In the state of Texas, you don't have to come to school until 1st grade, and because you've opted to attend school and enroll your child in school, your child has to be there every day. Okay, so those are the type of things that we made sure that we updated on the attendance website so that people can see, so that they will stop saying, oh, we didn't know. So we're trying to help, trying to be proactive regarding that. student involvement, I had an opportunity to go meet with the student leadership team, student council over at Duncanville High School on Friday. And we wanted to talk with them because as parents, as adults, I've been in education for, I'm gonna date myself, 29 years. So, and then my child is no longer a teenager. So therefore, I need to know what it is that they want, what it is that they see, what it is that they identify in those conversations that they hear amongst their peers regarding what it is that we need to know. Why is it that your peers are not coming to school? Why is it that they're not going to class? That was a very insightful meeting, very insightful, to the point where they were so excited they want me to come back again monthly. So I'm excited to go. I think it just lended a listening ear for them and gave them the opportunity to have a voice, if you will, because they were like, oh, she works for the plaza, so let me tell her this, let me tell her that. And so it gave us a little insight as to what we needed to know, and I think we are going to be in a better place because we're having the conversations with our students. And then we're also going to try to provide student incentives. Of course, that goes back to money and then the collaboration with our businesses in the area. And then we talked about pre-K, but one of the things that we're going to do, our early outreach, pre-K roundup is coming up in April. And so we want to make sure, because they're one of our targeted groups, because they have one of the highest attendance rates, the lowest attendance rates in the district. We're going to target them first with the new enrollment that will start April 2025, April 1st. When we have that roundup, they will have a sheet of paper and there will be a table that we're having that conversation where parents, you need to know that if you enroll your child, they have to come to school every day. Okay, so that's something different that we'll be doing. Of course, we talked about why attendance matters, of course, the state funding, financial implications, and then that community impact. We have better attendance, it leads to improved student learning and overall school performance, okay? Like Dr. Gorey always says, you cannot learn if you're at the house. You have to be at school in order to make sure that we're increasing student performance. So next steps, we are asking for parents to help. So we're telling parents how they can help. It's basically review and support, making sure that you stay informed regarding what it is that you need to know about attendance, and then providing feedback and making sure that you're involved. We know that parent engagement is the key to all things, and so that's why our parent liaisons are tied to everything that we're doing now, and then you'll see us more in the schools and having those conversations. We are trying to hire a new attendance truancy person now as well, and so we're wanting to make sure that we have someone there with a voice. Okay, I'm excited about the work that we're getting ready to do, and hopefully with that work we'll be able to provide that support for all of our students so that you can see that we'll be increasing not only our ADA, our funding, but our school performance. Are there any questions?
What is a consequence for truancy, for a kid that's not present, whatever the number of days that they missed, but when they reach that number, that magical number, whatever it is, what is the consequence that happens to that parent, student, and both parties?
Okay, so things have changed. So it's not like truancy court, you go and you get a big fine. So if the student is absent with an unexcused absence 10 or more times within a 30-day period, 3-month period, they will have to go to truancy court. So we'll file on truancy court if the administrator has done their due diligence in making sure that they have an attendance contract, they're working with the kid, they have to show documentation that they're doing all of these things in order for the judge to even listen to us, to even provide that case to the judge. So the judge is really strict. Now, the state of Texas has changed quite a bit, so if you're going to truancy court, it's not the way it used to be, where the sheriff would go to the house, pick up the kid, take the kid. It's no longer that. So when we go to truancy court, the judge may find the parent or find the student, but it's not like it used to be. okay? Because we can file truancy all day long, they pay a $50 fine or whatever, but remember, we're talking about the kids who have the Jordan shoes too. You know what I'm saying? So they'll pay the fine and then next week they'll go back and skip. The second thing is that even though we have that truancy in place, those chronically absent students, if it's excused or unexcused, in the state of Texas, you have to be in attendance in a class 90% of the time or you won't get credit for the class. So some of you all may have heard, you know, you have to be attend school 90% of the time, a class, especially for the high school, in order to receive credit. Even in elementary, middle, and intermediate, in order to be to go to the next grade level, if you will, transition to the next grade level. So we have those things in place. If they are not there 90% of the time, then they would have to attend some type of attendance recovery. And so they're doing that on the weekends, after school, during lunch, whatever the principal at that school has determined the time or whatever, whenever they need to do the attendance recovery. Yes, ma'am.
So, I don't know all the reasons kids go to summer school, but would that be one?
That's a good question.
If their attendance, they need to make up time, or is it grade based that kids go to summer school?
So when I started last year, that was a conversation I had with Mr. Flint, but I know that Mr. Flint also we have a budget in the district. And so we have to make sure that our tier 3 babies that need that support, as far as what they're looking at for summer school, 9 times out of 10, they're in summer school because they have attendance issues. And that's what we noticed last year. I think we did have a couple of kids that attended for attendance purposes, but again, we want to make sure that we're getting the kids in for that academic support first, for that instruction, before we look at those numbers.
It's funded by us, we don't receive any funding like we do during the school year for when they attend, or no?
It's mostly locally funded.
Okay, that's what.
Okay, for summer school or for ADA? For ADA, we don't, it's from August to May. If they come to school in the summer, that's on us, but we've already lost the funds.
That's
Yes.
what I thought. Like I said, I do a whole bunch of budget here on lunch. And I don't see how the education funding works, so.
One thing I didn't put there, and I know if Mr. Graham was here, he would say this, we're putting some things in place, and I know it's in our, one of our initiatives where we are going to try to ensure that kids are more involved in school. So we're creating avenues so they have either extracurricular activities or clubs. And it truly, truly works. When kids feel connected to school, connected to a member of the staff, they will come to school. They will come to school just to say, hey, how are you? And maybe just to sit in your class all day. Baby, you have to go to your other classes too. But at least they'll come to school. And so that's what we're trying to ensure that everyone, you know, kind of is aware of as well. So that's a next step for us also. Yes, ma'am. Oh, no problem. No, you're fine. You're just paying me back from what we did to you. That's okay.
So I would love to start dinner programs here, and that's something that we don't have at all, but there are really strict requirements about when we can serve food and what's going on at the school. But I would love to be involved in conversations or find out if there's after-school activities going on. The requirements are anybody in the school has to be allowed to attend. So for instance, I can't go feed the football players, because if you didn't make the football team, you can't just do that, right? However, if you have tutoring going on at the high school, that anyone, including the football players, can come to, I can feed everybody. You have to have an educational component going on, an enrichment activity. So that's a lot of story to say. I would love to start a dinner program. If there's opportunities for that with after-school things, I would just like an invitation to take.
Okay, I would love that. So I forgot about that. So before I met with the students, the student council group, I actually met with the operations team of administrators at the high school. And so we had discussions. So I was not aware, and I'm still learning the district, I was not aware that all of that takes place after school on like Tuesdays and Thursdays. Attendance recovery, attendance recovery, credit recovery, tutoring, detention, all those things occur after school. So I am in conversation with them, as well as I'll be talking with Ms. Mayo next week or later on this week about what we can do as far as providing incentives. But I love that idea that we could possibly provide incentives and make sure that, you know, if our students are staying after school, that they possibly will have a meal.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
And to make that further for us to partner with the culinary students that could receive credits and actually fix meals and give their input and get some experience is something that I'm interested in as well. So.
I love that. So let's plan on putting something on our calendar to actually have that meeting and that conversation.
Yeah, because it takes several months to be qualified for that program.
Okay.
There's a lot of steps, which I've done before.
Okay.
But it is a huge planning thing. The state has to come in and they have to check everything, check all the boxes and get approved for it. But I'm happy to do those things if we can get that.
Okay. What's the deadline on that for next school year?
Well, the program actually starts, I think it's September 1st for CACFP.
Okay.
And I would say we need to have 3 or 4 months at least from start to finish.
Okay. Okay. Sounds like a plan. Everybody's shaking their head, so I think everybody agrees with with that plan.
New recipes and new ideas.
Exactly. We were just having that conversation, so that's why we're all here together, working together. So, are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. That I know I keep saying this, like the underlying thing for every single one of these, y'all, it's the parents, because the parents are the ones that have to get the kids to school for the most part. A lot of our kids aren't driving, so how do we convince parents? And I was so irritated the day that the weather was supposed to freeze over and we were waiting to see, and they ended up having school anyway. So my daughter, Duncanville High School, she was like, "Mommy, none of my friends are going to school today." Girl, she said, I can't be at the bus stop. I don't even have a winter coat. Don't worry about that. Here's my coat. Don't worry about that. You ain't got to ride the bus. I'm going to drop you off. And I took her there. And so she started texting me around 1 something. "Mama, ain't nobody here at school. It's snowing outside. Look at the window. Can you please come get me early?" I said, "You are inside the building where it's warm. What do I need to come get you for? You gonna come home and do the same and sit inside the house?" So, but a lot of other parents though, in our football groups and other things, were like, "I wouldn't dare send my kids to school. It was too cold." And I'm like, make it make sense, y'all. Why are these kids sitting at home? Because it's cold outside. So it goes back to that whole, the parent situation. And I know generations are just changing. I'm a little old school. If school is open, you're going to be in there. My son, we were at Children's Hospital. He was in the hospital for 3 days for an asthma attack. And one of his teachers called. And they said, "Well, we'll put the stuff on Google Classroom, so whenever he's feeling better." I said, "Feeling better? This boy can breathe. What's the login? We finna, right here, we sit in Children's Hospital for 3 days and we can't go nowhere. We finna do some of this work." So we're gonna do some work. Yes, ma'am.
You said several times, how we the parents involved. I have not had the luxury of meeting our current superintendent, but I have a lot of friends in education that have spoken highly of him, so I'm excited about the new leadership. I started the PTA at Cameron because I was told that our old superintendent had a vision that they wanted a PTA on all the campuses. I've only been on 2 campuses here in Duncanville where I've served on the PTA, but the PTA starts that forum, right, of parents who obviously, to join the PTA, have an interest in what's going on in the school. And again, I have not had the luxury of meeting our current superintendent, but that is something I personally have been trying to advocate and help as I reach out to parents and I'm on these campuses, because the parents are not raising children. And I say that respectfully. I'm not trying to offend today's parenting, but they are trying to be their friend versus actually raising up children. I sub today. I'm like you. I help out where I can. And the amount of curse words, disrespect. We had an emergency fire drill. They acted like they've never been in a fire drill before, and these are kids that are bigger than me. And they love me shields. I'm very more in this district. But I have to get on them. Yeah. And so I'm trying to get our parents more engaged. Sign up, volunteer. everybody knows, go out to our parent body, this week, because they need to sign up in the district, become volunteers, and pop in and help.
They do, and they need to know what's going on in the schools too, and that's exactly. And I said that if parents really saw what was really happening in these schools, they would be more involved, because the same thing when I'm subbing, I'm just like, they did what in this classroom?
I'll add to kind of piggyback on what Michelle was saying. Once again, going back to the Louisiana reference, I'm from Baton Rouge, and I've seen it in Baton Rouge and Shreveport. We have this thing called security dads, where like fathers of students that are actual students in the school will volunteer to go to whatever training program they need to go to, and will just be present on the campus, present to say, no, you can't go that way. No, where's your pass? Let me see your badge. You know, things like that. If we had people like that, parents like that, that could be available, dads, moms, just to be in the building, you know, go through some type of training, of course.
Yeah.
But to be in the building, exactly, be in the building, no, baby, you can't do that. No, you should go to class. You should know this restroom is not open. I'm saying that from a high school perspective, because we got a lot of folks that just walk around. It's like the mall sometimes.
Absolutely.
But, you know, we have parents to kind of detour these kids from going to other places. You know, it'll make a big difference.
I failed to say that one of the things that came out of our student leadership meeting is that they are going to start doing social media posts for me, because one of the things that came out of the conversation is, I don't know who's putting this social media posts on about attendance, but you all are talking to 40-year-old people, and that's old. We need some posts that talks to our peers. And I was like, well, if you're saying that, then you make the post. And so they agreed to, look, I've been at all grade levels, elementary, middle, and high school. So I have grown folk conversations with people. And so they agreed. And so when we come back from spring break, you'll start seeing posts that are geared and targeted towards their peers. So hopefully that will bring the kids back to school, first of all, but then we'll have to make sure they're in class, second of all, so that it doesn't look like the old school Freeburg Mall or the Parks Mall. Yes.
They are there. They're physically in the building. That's it. They're there. Thank y'all for that. So if there aren't any, one more, we have another one.
So we have one more SHAC meeting for this school year. We need students on our SHAC committee. So parents that are in the room, Alex, if you can help us get students, even though they may be able to come the last meeting, hopefully they will continue to come when we start back up in the fall. But one of the requirements is to have students on this meeting. And some of the things that we've discussed tonight and at other meetings, if students would hear things like even with the cafeteria, if they hear why the food maybe is bland to them, maybe they can understand, and maybe they can be a voice to even help their peers to get in school. So please, please give me some students.
So that student council is very vocal. They want to be heard, so they will be more than happy to come. I'll try to ask some of the juniors, because the seniors, of course, they're getting ready to graduate. But there's one young lady that's getting ready to be president next year, and she's very vocal, and she would be very good for this group. Yeah,
Awesome.
very good for this group. So I'll talk to a couple of them and see if they heard tonight. Just give me the date and I'll send it. Oh yeah, 'cause I meet with them in March.
Yeah, that is perfect. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's true too. And because I know, like with my daughter, she's a dancer, and then she just made the flag football team. There's no high school people in here. I am so excited about this all-girls flag football team. You at high school?
I'm the head athletic trainer.
Yes. All right. So she's been wanting to play flag football forever, and we just could never find time. And when the high school got it, so she found out Friday she made the team, but they're always at practice. And then I know, like with my son at Kennemer, they don't get out till 4:30. We have to be here at 4:30. So it is that time conflict is tricky with the students, but I love the student council idea because we do want to hear their voices to help empower them so they can help us. All right. Any other questions or comments for the good of the group? All right, as usual, y'all have been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to the last meeting together. Have a good night, everybody. It is spring break, y'all. Can you believe that? Oh my God. You're going by fast.